So I kind of want to talk about friendship um, in this video because I think that is one of the things that we as ex-chose witnesses get confused with when it comes to the organization and the people in your congregation. I didn't really understand or even comprehend that I loved people conditionally. You know, I loved people based on how they behaved or how they acted. And if they didn't act to the standards that I found acceptable, I would just cut them off or I wouldn't speak to them anymore. Or I feel compelled to exercise my right of speech in the name of Jehovah to correct them in their negative actions that I feel that they're doing towards God. All about feeling, all about how that person made me feel. I will then counsel them. Essentially, just judging them. My name is not Jesus. I say that all the time. When people judge me, I'm like, is your name Jesus? Because Jesus is the only one that's supposed to judge me. I would say I had terrible friends as a Jehovah's Witness. And I always thought they were good friends, but they were really terrible. And I would say I was a terrible friend as a Jehovah's Witness as well. And I will break it down for you. The reason why I think Jehovah's Witnesses make terrible friends. Now, at the beginning, you may see how loving they are and, that love bombing. They're giving you all the love in the world. People are really coddling you and taking care of you. But, that's all a facade. That's all just a way to get you to stay within the religion. And then once you get sucked in and you start believing in it, you operate on this idea, well, I'm not serving these people, I'm serving Jehovah. And this is an organization full of imperfect people. There's imperfect people running a perfect organization when you make excuses for people and how they treat you. But frankly, people treat you poorly. And it could be a combination of a number of things, but I think it all has to do with, people associating with people that they would not normally associate with. In my instance, when I was younger, it's kind of made me an old soul as a result of it. I don't feel like it was all terrible, but it wasn't balanced. You know, I hung out with a lot of elderly people. I hung out with a lot of old people. And because in my congregation, the younger people, they weren't going out in service like that. They weren't as active in the ministry as I was. And the old people were the people that I hung out with. But what normal scenario would you see a 14, 13, 12 year old hanging out in a car with a bunch of 80-year-olds and 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds, out in service in the summertime? You wouldn't, that's not a normal scenario unless you spent a lot of time in a nursing home or with your grandparents and that your grandparents are very sociable. That doesn't normally happen, right? And then another layer of that is that, you're encouraged to hang out with people with the same spiritual goals as you, right? Um, it could be a group of people in one room. One likes to music. One likes, sports. Another person likes to play video games all day. But they all have the same goal of pioneering. So therefore, you should be their friend. So in reality, you guys actually have nothing in common. It's just the fact that you guys share a goal. And so therefore, you build these relationships with people. And some relationships are quite honestly difficult because some people are just stupid. They're just daft. Like they have no common sense, and that is draining. And then some people are just not your type. They're just not your cup of tea. And you spend your whole entire life, for me, growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, hanging out with people that I just didn't really care for, that I didn't really like, you know, and that is draining. It's exhausting. And then you find yourself at some point having turnovers of friendships. You know, I don't think it's normal to spend every day with someone out in the ministry and see them at the hall 2 or 3 times a week, and then, spending hours with them in the car, and then they move away, and then you just never speak to them again. I remember a sister, she had invited us to go to her campground. She had a campground somewhere out in Pennsylvania, really far, and she was in our congregation, and her and her husband bought this property, and they bought a camper, and then they were staying out there. So she had just gotten baptized. She was only baptized for a year or two. Her energy gave me like, I don't think she's a witness anymore right now, just after that event, because I think we kind of irritated her. But you take these people that are used to being like in a city area, and then you put them on a campground where you're literally sleeping on the ground, and it just wasn't a fun experience. And by like day 4 or 5, like all of us was miserable and done. Like the ground was hard, it was cold outside, and it just wasn't a fun experience. And I remember that was like the last time I seen her. And I felt bad because I'm like, she had invited us to her place. And although we were miserable, I never even really got to say like thank you, or, I didn't even have her phone number. She just disappeared. I never seen her again. And I think about like all those witnesses that, have brought me into their home, and, spent a lot of time with them, and then they go away, and then that's it. I don't speak to them anymore. I don't reach out to them anymore. They don't reach out to me anymore. And that's the end of our relationship. And we're kind of trained to be that way, especially when people are disfellowship. Like, you know, you get disfellowship and you just cut that person off. I remember when I was waking up and, I had my judicial meeting with the elders, and I was like, okay, this is not the right religion. I watched the Leah Remini stuff. I started reaching out to like some really close friends of mine that I had when I was a child. And I, reached out to them and I said to them, I went over to the house and they were so kind to me. Like I had shunned them for like years, for a decade. And they were so kind to me. And they made me dinner and we just sat and talked. And I remember I hugged one of my friends and then I just started crying. And he was like, well, what is wrong with you? Why are you crying? I'm like, it was like you were dead. And he was like, but I'm here. And I'm like, I know, but you were only like 10, 15 miles away from me. And I treated you as if you were dead. But you're not dead. You're here. Why did I do that? I love you so much. Why did I treat you as if you were dead for a whole decade and you were right here? I think that was another light bulb moment for me. When I'm like touching and I'm feeling and I'm like, this is a human being. This was a person I spent like my entire childhood with, and we had similar struggles with poverty, and our mothers were very dysfunctional with money, and then they somehow became best friends and then became dysfunctional together, and we shared those dramas together, and we worked through them, and we were able to overcome them, and we share that together, and I treated him like he was dead for 10 years. What a terrible friend I was. And even like I had a friend and she was a terrible friend to me. I was dating his brother, and I had liked him for years, and finally he had showed me some attention, and I was like, yes. So we started dating for a couple of months, but then I felt his energy shift. Like, I don't think he's interested in me anymore. So I kind of broke it off with him. Well, it turns out he was dating my childhood friend, and not just like a friend that was in another Kingdom Hall. She was actually in the same congregation as me. And they deliberately didn't tell me that they were dating each other until like maybe 6 months into their relationship. And then I found out that they were dating, and I reached out to my childhood friend, forget him. I reached out to her and I was like, so why didn't you tell me you guys were dating? And she was like, oh, well, he told me the relationship wasn't that serious. But I thought we were friends. I mean, this is a girl that I went out every weekend with, and we traveled and went up and down, up in the city on the weekends, and she just dated him and got married and had kids and never acknowledged me or my relationship, and honestly really never spoke to me ever again after that. We went from, it was so weird, we went from being close to hanging out every weekend to, as soon as she dated my ex-boyfriend, she just completely cut me off. And what that proves to me is that we just weren't ever friends. We were never friends. I had another friend that when I went through my stuff with the elders and everyone in the circuits were talking about me. You can watch previous videos to get filled in with that. But I had another friend. She told my recently reinstated friend that I was a bad association and that she should avoid me and no one should hang out with me and I should have been disfellowshipped a long time ago. She's telling my friend who just got reinstated to avoid me because I may get hurt this fellowship again. Not knowing anything about the situation, not reaching out to me and asking me if I'm okay, not even trying to find out if any of the rumors were true because she didn't even know if anything was true or not. She just went by the rumors and then that was the end of our relationship. But can I really get mad at her? Yeah. But then I have to reflect on myself and the things that I've done to other people. And I'm sure I've gossiped about other people. I'm sure, I hung out with people I didn't really like. And then the moment that they did something that made me angry, I just flipped on them and was like, okay, well, I'm not going to hang out with them anymore. Knowing good or well, I never really liked them, but I used their mistakes or their sins against them so that I didn't have to put forth the effort to try to be their friends anymore. And I think that's the problem with the organization. They're forcing people to be friends. They're forcing people to hang out with each other and associate with each other. And those people don't even like each other. I secretly hated people. I don't know about you, but I secretly hated people. Especially some of these pioneers out in service. I mean, there's some of them are just sad, miserable, and they could just change the whole energy of the car group. And I'd be like, oh my God. And the elders would always put, the servants, the elders, whatever, they would always put me with the most miserable people out in service. I can think of just one sister particularly. And when I say miserable people, I'm probably just talking about her. She was just she was so freaking annoying. They would always put me with her. But all that being said is, now I have the opportunity to really practice unconditional love and hang out with people that I actually like, I actually want to associate with, regardless of, if they have a boyfriend or if they have tattoos or if they have piercings or if they don't have the best language, if their core values are there and we share the same core values and the same principles, it doesn't matter if they're perfect, that, and I can love people unconditionally. That is stepping away from the religion. That's like one of the best gifts anyone can give to me, is to love people unconditionally. I don't have to avoid my childhood friend because he's disfellowship. I can talk to him. He's alive. He's breathing. I can check on him. I can love him regardless of how annoying or some of the stupid things he does, because he's like my brother, like he just annoys me sometimes, but like I can love them. I can love those people. I don't know, I kind of was already practicing that anyway. If you watch my other videos, I was like already loving, my family members, but like I would cut off people that weren't my family members. I was still practicing the shunning, but You know, if you were my family, you're getting disfellowship, I'm still talking to you. But now I can do that with like other people. I can still talk to them. And because I'm like PMO, I still, you know, if I find out a friend is getting disfellowship, I will text them and be like, I don't believe in shunning. So if you need me, if you need to talk to me, you know, I'm here. I still tell people that. I don't care. I mean, and I only tell my friends that. Like, I'm not doing that for everyone. The people that I actually really love. And I would hope that if I do that for them, that they would do that for me in the event when I disassociate myself. But I'm gonna try to keep my expectations low because the brainwashing is real and it's strong. But yeah, the organization just doesn't set you up to be a real friend of people. That whole mindset of being this is your real friends. No, they are not your real friends. There's just a bunch of people put together with different goals and different aspirations in life. But you know, you just happen to be in the same religion. So don't get that confused. So when you get this fellowship and people shun you, just know that they were never your friends in the first place. Because my best friend, I never shunned her. I never shunned her. Even though I was still practicing shunning, I never shunned her. And she gets reinstated. And you know what? We're still the bestest friends right now. We both have the same view about the organization. I love her to death. Nothing, the color purple, nothing but death will keep me from you. Right? Nothing but death could keep me from it. That's how I feel about her. So, on to the next video.